Chapter 6 is the first of two chapters for user-defined functions, and Chapter 6 is value returning functions. We're going to write a program that converts pounds to kilograms or yards to meter. So the user is going to enter a number for the conversion and either a P or a Y to determine the correct conversion or the correct function to call. So I've took the liberty of starting this project, and now we're down to the part where we first put the functions in, and we're going to use function prototype statements. That just lets the compiler know that the code, even though I'm going to use some of the code in the main program, the actual body of the code exists underneath main. You have a choice. You actually could write the function completely at the top and then have main be at the end, or use a prototype, and we're going to use a prototype in this one. So the first thing that I want here is the name of my function, and function names that return values have to have a data type. So this is going to be a function that returns a double value. I'm going to call this one pounds, and I'm going to pass in a number, and it's going to be of type double as well. And that's all I need actually for the prototype. Then I have another function. It's going to be called yards, because that's the other conversion I have, and it too will take a double number. So I've got my two prototype statements there for my functions. Now I'm ready to start main, my main function that's required. In main is where I'm going to call these functions, and the function bodies will follow main. So I'm going to start by declaring my variable here, double number, and I'm going to declare a char called measure, because the user's got to put in a P or a Y to let me know which function needs to be called. And I'm going to control this with a counter-controlled loop just so I can run it twice and show you that both functions actually work. So I'm going to set count, integer count, equal to 0. And then I'm going to set up, in case I don't know what the user might enter as far as decimal position, so I'm going to set up, using iomanip, fixed show point, and set the precision to 2. So we get everything in 2 decimals. And then I'm going to start my while loop. So while count is less than 2, I want to start my loop. And I'm going to prompt the user, and you're not going to be able to see everything on the screen in this one as I move down the screen. But again, don't forget that the hard copy of the code and a screenshot are in the video folder so that you can look at it. So I want to tell the user that they are supposed to, and I could make it very specific and account for both lowercase and uppercase, but I'm just going to enter a P for pounds, or a Y for yards. That's the first of the input that we need, and so I've got to read that in, and I called that variable measure. And then I need to prompt them again for the number that they're trying to convert. So I want to tell them now to enter the number. Which I stored in number. So that takes care of my input. And I'm doing this inside the loop, remember, but this is a counter-controlled loop. So now I have to determine which of the functions I'm going to call. There are two ways to call a function that returns a value. One way is to assign it to a variable, so it's called on the right-hand side of the equal sign. The other way is to put it in an output statement, because then there's a placeholder for that value when it returns from the function call. So in order to determine which function, I'm going to ask if measure is equal to a P for pounds. If that's true, then the function that I want to call in this output statement is the pounds function. So I'm going to do a cout here, number, whatever that number is, and then I'm going to put a label here, a space, and the word pounds. So if they entered 3, this would say 3 pounds equals And here's my function call. Pounds with the argument number. So up at the top in the function prototype statement, as well as underneath when we actually write the function body, the double here is a placeholder or a parameter or a formal parameter, and down here I'm actually plugging in a variable of type double, which is the argument or a plain parameter rather than a formal parameter. So if it was 3, it would pass 3 to pounds, and when I finish and it returns the value, then I want it to tell the user that that is now in kilograms, and then an NDEL and another NDEL. Else, in other words, they didn't put a P in, so we're going to assume they put a Y in. I'm not error trapping for everything because that isn't the point in this chapter. And actually, I'm going to copy and paste so I don't have to retype that line. So I'm copying with Control C and I'm pasting with Control V. And all I have to change here is it's not pounds, it's yards. And I don't want to call pounds, but rather the function yards. And it's not going to be kilograms, but rather meters. So again, copy and paste and just edit. So there's my if statement inside of here. And I still need to control my loop, which I'm doing with count. Count is currently set to 0, so I want to increment count here, so I'm not in an endless loop. But that is the last statement in my while loop. So I'm finished with the while loop. I'm actually finished with the main body of the program, so I can do a return 0 and close my program. Then we have to put in the functions. So you repeat basically what your function prototype statement is, except that you do specify, and this is double number, and I can use the same variable name or a different one here, and it follows exactly as main. The function header, data type, the name of the function, any parameters, then an open brace. And this is a real simple function. I'm only returning a single value, which is all this kind of function can do. So it's return, and then it's my conversion, which is number times 0.45359, which was a given. And then I close the brace for my function. The second function is almost identical, except the conversion is different and the name is different. But this is double yards. It takes double number. And again, open and close the braces because it is a function. And I'm going to return the number multiplied by 0.9144, and then close the brace. So there are both of my function bodies. Typically value returning functions are pretty small because you can only return a single value from a value returning function. These are called this is called passing by value, which means it's passing a copy of the value number from the main program down here to the function. So let's build it and see if we get a clean build. No. Cout is misspelled. Let's try it again. And that's still another error. If measure missing comma before semicolon. There shouldn't be a comma. Let's see. I forgot one of the operators there. And I forgot one down here as well. Try one more time. Looks like, yes, we're going to get a successful build this time. Remember, it's going to loop through here twice so that we can try it for pounds and for yards. So start without debugging here. I'm going to put in a P for pounds the first time around. Let me move that. P, And the number I'm going to put in here is 5. So I'm entering 5 pounds, and I'm going to get the answer back in kilograms. So 5 pounds is equal to 2.27 kilograms. Now let's do the function call for yards, where I input a y, and I'll use 5 again. So 5 yards is equal to 4.57 meters. So it did work.